This story is titled, My Fiancée Made Fun of My Career at Her Office Party. I broke off the engagement right in front of everyone. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, I've been sitting on this for a while, trying to make sense of what went down, but I eventually decided to post it. 30 male, work as an electrician. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I love my job. Sure, it's not the kind of thing people put in movies or brag about at fancy dinners, but I've been working with my hands since I was a teenager, and it's what I'm good at. I didn't just stumble into this either. I worked hard to get here. I spent years going to trade school, juggling side gigs to afford my tools, and putting in long hours as an apprentice to learn the ropes. I had to prove myself every step of the way, especially in a field where your reputation can make or break you. I've spent countless hours mastering circuits, panels, and wiring, and there's something incredibly satisfying about fixing something broken and seeing it work again. Plus, I've built a pretty good life from it. I run my own small business, where I handle everything from home repairs to custom lighting setups for businesses. It wasn't easy getting to the point where I could be my own boss, but it was worth it. Now I have a nice truck, loyal clients, and I'm saving to buy my first house. It's not flashy, but it's honest work, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've always been proud of where I am, but I'll admit, I've had to deal with people looking down on what I do. You know the type, the ones who think real success is sitting in a cubicle or having a long title like Senior Executive something something. I thought my fiancée, Lisa, 30 female, wasn't one of those people. Lisa and I have been together for about 4 years. She works in corporate marketing, which is a world I don't really understand, but always tried to respect. She's ambitious, driven, and polished in a way that made me feel like a regular guy standing next to a magazine cover. She's the kind of person who plans everything, from our weekend brunches to our 5-year goals. I liked that about her. I thought we balanced each other out. Me, the hands-on problem solver, and her, the polished go-getter. In the beginning, Lisa would tell me how much she admired my work ethic. She'd say things like, "I love how passionate you are about what you do," or, "You're so good with your hands, it's impressive." I ate that up because it felt good to have someone in my corner, especially someone like Lisa, who could have had her pick of any suit and tie type, but went out of her way to pursue me. I remember asking her once why she was so interested in me, and she said, "Because you're a real man." But now that I'm looking back, I think there were signs that she didn't really respect me or what I do. It's just that I ignored them. For example, there was this one time when we were talking about future goals, and I said I wanted to expand my business, maybe hire a couple of guys to work under me so I wasn't always on the job myself. Her response? "That's cute, babe. You'd be like a little boss." I laughed it off at the time, but now it feels like one of those comments that wasn't as innocent as it seemed. Then there was the way she talked about her own career. She'd go on and on about how hard it was to get where she is, how she had to prove herself in a male-dominated industry, and how she's always working twice as hard as everyone else. Don't get me wrong. I respected the hell out of her hustle. But looking back, I realized she never really asked about my work in the same way. Like, she never cared about the struggles I had running my own business, or the times I had to work 12-hour days in someone's attic during a heat wave just to make ends meet. Still, I never thought it was a big deal. I figured we just had different ways of showing support. She was all about big, flashy gestures, posting pictures of us with captions like, "So proud of my guy," while I was more low-key. I'd show up to her work events, listen to her vent about her boss, and make sure she had dinner waiting when she got home late. To me, that was enough. Things started to feel off earlier this year, though. Lisa got a promotion, and suddenly her life became all about networking and corporate events. She started talking about her colleagues constantly. This guy who's a rising star in the industry. That woman who's such a powerhouse. I noticed she didn't mention me as much anymore. When I asked about it, she brushed it off, saying, "You're not part of that world, babe. It's not a big deal." That stung a little, but I let it go. I figured she was just caught up in the excitement of her new role. Then came the co-workers' holiday party. Lisa had been talking about it for weeks. She kept saying it was a big deal, and that it was important I come with her. "You'll love it," she said. "You'll get to see the people I work with and the world I live in." I wasn't exactly thrilled about spending a night with a bunch of corporate types, but I figured it was important to her, and I wanted to be by her side, so I agreed. As the date got closer, I started to feel more and more out of my element. Lisa was planning everything down to the last detail. What we'd wear, what time we'd arrive, even what kind of conversations I should prepare for. Just talk about your business, she said. People love hearing about small businesses. That should have been my first red flag. Why would I need to prepare to talk about what I do? But again, I brushed it off. I wanted to be there for her, even if it meant stepping into a world that felt completely foreign to me. The night of the party, I put on my one good suit and did my best to clean up. Lisa looked incredible, like she always does, in this sleek black dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. When we got to the venue, I realized just how out of place I was. The place was decked out with fancy decorations. Everyone was dressed to the nines, moving through the room like they were on a runway. I was trying my best to play along, even though this whole thing feels like stepping onto a set of The Office. But, way less funny and way more fake. People are walking around in their overpriced suits and shoes, talking about brand initiatives and quarterly projections. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to keep my tie from choking me to death. Lisa's in her element, though. She's laughing, working the room, and introducing me to everyone like she's the star of the show. Honestly, I was kind of proud of her at first. I mean, she's good at what she does, and it's obvious her colleagues respect her. But the more she introduced me to people, the more it started to feel off. It started small. Every time she'd introduce me, she'd throw in some little comment that felt like a jab. Like, "This is my fiancé. He's an electrician. He keeps things running around the house." Or, "If you ever need someone to fix your outlets, he's your guy." She'd laugh, and so would they. But I wasn't laughing. I brushed it off the first couple of times, telling myself she was just nervous or trying to be funny. But after the fifth or sixth time, I started to wonder if this was just how she talked about me behind my back. Anyway, Lisa and I were standing with a group of her colleagues when one guy, a real smug-looking dude in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my truck, asked me what I do for a living. I smiled and told him, "I'm an electrician. I run my own business. Simple and plain." Before he could say anything, Lisa jumped in. "Oh, he's amazing with his hands," she said, with this overly sweet tone that immediately made me cringe. "He's like my little handyman at home. Anytime something breaks, he's on it. Isn't that adorable?" Adorable. That word hit hard. The way she said it wasn't affectionate. It was condescending, like I was some kind of pet she brought to show off. The group burst out laughing, and I just stood there, trying to keep my face neutral. Inside, I was fuming. I wanted to say something, but I didn't want to make a scene. So I just smiled awkwardly and nodded like I was in on the joke. But I wasn't. I was done. The rest of the night didn't get better. Every time we talked to someone new, Lisa found a new way to put me down, whether it was calling me her fix-it guy or joking about how I probably didn't get their world of corporate marketing. At one point, I heard her telling someone, "Oh yeah, he's my little wires and pliers guy, like Bob the Builder, but less ambitious." I was standing there thinking, did she just reduce my job to a joke? I let it slide, trying to keep the peace, but it didn't end there. What really pissed me off was how casual she was about it. Like she didn't even notice she was insulting me. Or worse, she noticed, and just didn't care. The way she looked at me when she made those comments, it wasn't love or pride, it was a pity. Like I was some small-town guy who got lucky to be with her and should just be grateful for it. The worst part? Everyone else seemed to eat it up. They were laughing along with her like her insults were the funniest thing they'd ever heard. And why wouldn't they? In their eyes, I was just the blue-collar guy tagging along with the corporate queen. They didn't know me or what I'd built for myself. All they saw was what Lisa was showing them, someone to laugh at. By the time the toast happened, I was already checked out. Lisa stood up in front of everyone, looking like she owned the place, and started thanking her team for their hard work. I was halfway listening, just trying to get through the night without losing it, when she suddenly said, "And I want to give a special shout out to my fiancé." I looked up thinking, maybe she's going to redeem herself. But nope, he's not exactly a corporate guy, she said, grinning like she was about to drop the funniest joke of the night. But if anyone's dishwasher stops working, he's your guy. The room erupted in laughter. I sat there, frozen, as 100 pairs of eyes turned to me. My face felt like it was on fire. I looked over at Lisa, hoping she'd notice how humiliated I was, but she was too busy soaking up the attention. She was smiling, like she'd just won an award for most entertaining toast. I couldn't take it anymore. I excused myself and stepped outside to get some air. My hands were shaking, and my chest felt tight. I replayed her words over and over in my head, each one hitting harder than the last. Not a corporate guy. Your guy for power outages. What the hell had just happened? That wasn't a toast. That was a takedown. So, I'm standing outside this ridiculously fancy venue, breathing in the cold air and trying to cool off. The sound of everyone laughing at Lisa's toast is still echoing in my head. I don't know if I'm more embarrassed or angry, or maybe a mix of both. I kept thinking, is this how she's always seen me? Like some handyman she picked up for convenience? A few minutes later, Lisa comes outside. She's got this big, oblivious smile on her face. There you are, she says, like I'm some kid who wandered off. Why'd you sneak out? I look at her, trying to stay calm, but I can already feel the frustration bubbling up. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? She blinks, clearly caught off guard. What are you talking about? The toast, I say, my voice rising a little. You basically turned me into a joke in front of your entire office. Lisa rolls her eyes, like I'm the one being unreasonable here. Oh, come on. It was just a joke. Everyone thought it was funny. Yeah, because they don't know me, I snapped. All they know is what you told them. That I'm some not corporate guy who's good for fixing their dishwashers. Do you even realize how disrespectful that is? She sighs, like she's talking to a child. You're overreacting. It wasn't that deep. I was just trying to lighten the mood. Lighten the mood? I could feel my fists clenching at my sides. But I took a deep breath and tried to explain. Lisa, I've worked my ass off to get where I am. I run my own business. I make a good living. And you reduced all of that to a punchline. How do you think that makes me feel? Instead of apologizing or even trying to understand, Lisa crossed her arms and gave me this annoyed look. I don't know why you're being so sensitive about this. It's not like I said anything untrue. You're an electrician. It's not exactly a glamorous job, and there it is. The truth, plain and simple. I stare at her, stunned. Wow, I said. So that's how you really see me? Like I'm just some guy with a toolbox who's lucky to be with you. I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth. All I'm saying is that you need to learn how to take a joke. This isn't about me. It's about your insecurity. She started to yell. My insecurity. I felt my blood boiling now. This isn't about me being insecure. It's about you not respecting me or what I do. Do you even realize how condescending you sounded tonight? How condescending you always sound? Lisa's face hardened. You know what? Maybe I do think you're overreacting. And maybe you should consider why you're so defensive about your job. If you were confident in yourself, you wouldn't let a little teasing bother you. That's when I realized we're not just having an argument. This is a fundamental problem. This is who Lisa is. She didn't respect me, and she never has. I take a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. You know what, Lisa? I can't do this anymore. Her eyes narrowed. Do what? This, I say, motioning between us. Us. This relationship. I'm done. Lisa stared at me like I've just grown a second head. Then she laughs. A short, disbelieving laugh. You're kidding, right? You're really going to break up with me over a joke? It's not just the joke, I said firmly. It's how you see me. How you've always seen me. You don't respect me, Lisa. You never have. And I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being treated like I'm less than you just because I don't work in an office. Her expression shifted from disbelief to anger. Are you serious right now? Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound? You think you're so special because you run a little business, fixing people's wiring? Well, guess what? It's not that impressive. Her words were harsh, but they solidified my decision. I pulled the engagement ring off my finger and held it out to her. Good luck finding someone you actually respect, I said, calmly and firmly. She stared at the ring like it was going to explode in her hand. You're making a huge mistake, she said. No one else is going to put up with your fragile ego. I only replied with, maybe not, but at least I'll have my self-respect. And with that, I turned and walked back into the party to grab my stuff, leaving her standing there in the cold, with the ring still in her hand. The moment I stepped back into the party to grab my coat, the buzz of conversation and laughter hit me like a wall. The room was still alive, but I noticed people sneaking glances at me. I knew it was going to make a scene. Honestly, I didn't care. Let them talk about it for the next 5 weeks. Let them dissect every detail. I wanted this moment to stick with Lisa and everyone here. She'd spent the entire night tearing me down. Now it was my turn to walk out on my terms. As I reached for my coat, I heard the sharp click of Lisa's heels behind me. I knew she wouldn't let me leave without some kind of showdown. You're really going to do this? She hissed. She glanced nervously around, trying to make sure no one overheard. Here? In front of everyone? I turned slowly, locking eyes with her. I could feel all those curious glances from her colleagues, the way conversations were quieting as people tuned in. Lisa, you already did this, I said, keeping my voice calm but loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. You crossed the line humiliating me in front of everyone. I'm just leaving before it gets worse. Her eyes widened for a split second before narrowing into a glare. Don't be so dramatic, she spat, grabbing my arm with enough force to make my jacket wrinkle. Her nails dug into my sleeve as she tried to keep her composure. No one even noticed. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I pulled my arm free and took a step back. Really? I said, raising my voice. Because I'm pretty sure half the room wasn't laughing with you after your little toast. They were laughing at me, and you made sure of it. That's not what happened, she snapped, her voice rising just enough to draw more attention. The hum of conversation around us dropped a notch. People weren't even pretending not to listen anymore. They were laughing because it was funny, she insisted, her cheeks flushed with anger. You're the one who's turning this into a big deal. I took a breath, steadying myself, and let the silence between us hang for a moment. Lisa, I said firmly, you turned me into a punchline. You made it crystal clear how little you respect me, and now you're acting like I'm crazy for being upset. Do you even hear yourself right now? Her face turned bright red, and not from embarrassment. This was pure, unfiltered rage. She crossed her arms. You're twisting everything I said, she shot back. I was trying to include you. You should be thanking me for making you part of the conversation instead of sulking like a child. Thanking you? You didn't include me. You mocked me. You made me sound like some dumb handyman who's only good for fixing your lights. That's not including me, Lisa. That's tearing me down so you can feel better about yourself. Before Lisa could respond, a voice cut in. Hey, is everything okay here? I turned to see one of her coworkers, a woman in a crisp suit, clutching, looking uncomfortable. Lisa whipped around to face her, putting on the fakest smile I've ever seen. Oh, it's fine, just a little misunderstanding, she said quickly, her voice an octave higher than usual. The woman glanced between us, clearly unconvinced. Well, if you need anything, she trailed off, giving me a sympathetic look before stepping away. Lisa's smile dropped the second her coworker turned her back. Do you see what you're doing? She hissed, her voice dripping with venom. You're embarrassing me in front of my entire office. I couldn't help but laugh, a bitter sound that cut through the room. I'm embarrassing you? I said, shaking my head. You spent the whole night treating me like a joke, and now you're worried about how you look? That's rich. I couldn't help but laugh, a sharp, biting sound that cut through the tension. I'm embarrassing you? I said, shaking my head. You spent the whole night treating me like a joke, and now you're worried about how you look? Unbelievable. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a tall man near the entrance watching us. He looked familiar. Then I realized it was Lisa's boss. He didn't say anything, but the way he crossed his arms and leaned slightly forward made it clear he was listening. Lisa noticed him too. Her face paled, and her whole demeanor shifted. Can we just talk about this later? She said, her voice suddenly softer. You're making a scene. I shook my head, thinking, that's exactly what I wanted. No, Lisa, we're not doing this later. We're doing it now. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with someone who thinks they're better than me just because I don't work in an office. I deserve more than this. More than you. Lisa's eyes darted between me, her boss, and the growing number of people pretending not to watch. Fine, she said, her tone practically spitting venom. Walk away. But don't come crying to me when you realize no one else is going to put up with your fragile ego. I couldn't help but smirk, shaking my head. Cry to you? You're joking, right? I'm not the one who's going to struggle finding someone who respects me. I didn't say it out loud. I didn't need to. My silence and the look on my face said it all, while staring at her, letting her words hang in the air. I wasn't going to stoop to her level. Instead, I turned to leave. Good luck finding someone who'll tolerate you, I said. Enjoy the party, folks, I said over my shoulder as I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear the murmurs spreading through the room, like ripples in a pond. People were whispering, exchanging glances, and I caught snippets of their conversations as I passed. Did you see that? What the hell was that about? I knew she was a bit much, but damn. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew the damage was done. Lisa wanted to be the center of attention, and now she had it. Not as the queen of the party, but as the woman who got called out in front of everyone. Let them talk. By the time I reached my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. I stood up for myself, and it felt damn good. Lisa could spin her story however she wanted, but I knew the truth, and so did everyone else who saw what happened. The days after the party were messy, to put it lightly. Lisa kept texting and calling me. They ranged from, can we just talk about this, to full-on, you're acting like a child, and everything in between. I didn't reply to any of them. Honestly, I needed space. I needed to figure out what the hell just happened, and how someone I thought loved and respected me could treat me like I was a punchline. But Lisa wasn't the type to sit quietly. Oh no. By day 3, I started hearing from mutual friends. Apparently, she wasn't content to just blow up my phone. She needed to make sure everyone else knew her side of the story too. She's saying you flipped out over nothing, one of my friends texted me. Like, she's making it sound like you stormed out because you're too sensitive to handle a joke. Another one sent me screenshots from Lisa's social media. There it was in plain sight. A post about how she dodged a bullet because some people can't handle a strong woman with a sense of humor. The comments were filled with her friends hyping her up. You deserve better. He sounds so insecure. Good riddance. Insecure. That word kept coming up, and it pissed me off every time I saw it. I wasn't insecure. I was tired. Tired of being belittled. Tired of being treated like I wasn't enough because I didn't fit into her perfect little corporate world. A couple of days later, I got a message that stopped me in my tracks. It was from one of Lisa's coworkers, someone I barely knew but who had been at the party. Hey, I just wanted to reach out and say I'm sorry for laughing at that toast, she wrote. Honestly, I always thought Lisa talked about you in a weird way, like she was settling for you or something. I didn't realize how bad it was until the other night. You didn't deserve that. That confirmed what I'd started to suspect. This wasn't just a one-time thing. Lisa had been looking down on me for a long time, probably since the beginning. I thought we were equals, partners. But to her, I was just the guy with the tools, someone she could control and joke about when it suited her. I started replaying our entire relationship in my head, picking apart every moment that felt off. Like the time she introduced me to her parents and said, he's not your typical corporate guy, but he's great with his hands. Or the time she told her friends, yeah, he owns a business, but it's like, small, not stressful like my job. How did I not see it? How did I not realize she was never proud of me, never truly respected me? The real cherry on top came about a week later. I got a call from Lisa's best friend, Jen. Now, Jen and I had always been cool. We weren't super close, but we got along well enough. So when her name popped up on my phone, I figured maybe she was calling to play peacemaker or something. But nope. I just thought you should know, Jen said. Lisa's been telling people that she settled for you because she thought you'd be easy to control. She said she didn't think you'd ever leave her because you'd feel too lucky to have her. She actually said that? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Yeah, Jen replied. I didn't want to believe it at first, but after what happened at the party, I'm sorry, man. You deserve better. I thanked her for telling me, but honestly, I didn't know how to feel. I mean, I was already done with Lisa, but hearing that, it was like adding insult to injury. This whole time, I thought I was building a life with someone who saw me as an equal, and she was treating me like some charity case. After the dust settled, it was like a switch flipped in my life. Lisa and I were done. No more texts, no more calls, no more fake apologies or attempts to spin the story. My life on my end was looking brighter. I threw myself into my work, taking on more projects, and I decided to sell my engagement ring and use the money to book myself a trip to the mountains, a place I'd always wanted to visit but never got around to because Lisa wasn't into rustic vacation. Turns out sitting by a campfire and looking at the stars is a hell of a lot better than listening to people talk about brand synergy over tiny hors d'oeuvres. During that trip, I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted and what I didn't want. I realized I'd spent way too much time trying to fit into Lisa's world, letting her define my worth based on her shallow metrics. That wasn't happening anymore. Then came the ultimate bit of karma. About a month after the party, I heard through the grapevine that her antics at the party and her behavior afterward had caught the attention of her boss. Apparently, some of her coworkers had started talking about the incident, and it made its way up the chain. She's been really tense at work, one of her colleagues told me. It's like she knows people are talking about her behind her back, and it's driving her nuts. She even snapped at someone during a meeting last week, which is not like her. Another mutual friend shared a text from Lisa, where she wrote, I worked my ass off to get where I am, and now it's like one stupid night is all anyone remembers. From what I could tell, the realization was starting to sink in. She hadn't just lost me. She damaged her professional relationships too. The people who once respected her were now questioning her judgment. I didn't get all the details, but from what I heard, the higher-ups weren't thrilled about how Lisa represented herself. She was passed over for a promotion she'd been gunning for, and let's just say she wasn't happy about it. I won't lie, I felt a little satisfaction knowing karma had finally caught up with her. Not because I wanted her to fail, but because it felt like validation. Her attitude, her need to tear others down to build herself up, it wasn't just a problem in our relationship. It was who she was. However, these days, I'm in a much better place. I'm glad I ended the relationship before getting married and have kids involved, and each day I feel my decision was so right. I've expanded my business, upgraded my tools, and even started teaching an evening class for aspiring electricians. Sharing what I know and seeing people get excited about learning the trade has been a game changer for me. I've also reconnected with friends I'd drifted away from during my time with Lisa. Looking back, I realize how much of my life I'd centered around her, her friends, her interests, her goals. Now, I'm focusing on what makes me happy, and it feels damn good. As for Lisa, I haven't heard from her directly since the breakup. She's still doing her thing, posting her cryptic quotes and probably telling anyone who'll listen that she's the victim. But honestly, I don't care. The truth is, walking away from that relationship was the best thing I've ever done. It wasn't just about the party or the toast. It was about realizing that I deserve to be with someone who values me for who I am, not for how I fit into their narrative. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that respect isn't optional in a relationship. You can't love someone you don't respect, and you shouldn't try to stay with someone who doesn't respect you. So to anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, trust your gut. If someone's tearing you down instead of lifting you up, let them go. You'll thank yourself later. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. It's been a wild ride, but I feel like I'm finally back on track. And if anyone ever needs an outlet rewired, you know who to call.